If you have even a very basic understanding of the field of psychology, you understand that we have a conscious mind and then we have a subconscious mind. Now, I want to see if I can make a distinction with you about those two, and then there's going to be a very, very common trend that I want you to become aware of relative to all of this. But when we talk about being in your conscious mind, we're talking about a mind that is alert. And there are actually many words that we can use that relate to the conscious mind. We can use the word awareness, or perceiving, or knowing, or discerning, or mindful, or intentional. Those are all words that we would use to describe the conscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind consists of all sorts of patterns that include emotionalized thoughts and responses and desires to life. And it's kind of like it's an autonomic or an automatic way of responding to the world. And frankly, it guides us in so many different kinds of ways. Now, let me give you a real simple illustration of how this can work. Let's suppose that as a young child, you had an experience with, let's say, a horse. And something happened that spooked the horse, and the horse became really unruly. And as a child, you were very fearful. Now, let's bring it up into your adult years and suppose that you're around a horse again. You may actually have a natural inclination to pull back and have a curiosity like, what's going on? And it may not even be that you're linking your response to that early experience, but that's your subconscious mind at work. Your subconscious mind stores all sorts of perceptions and experiences, and then you wind up having responses later on based on that stored information that's in there. It's pretty fascinating how it all works. Now, there's one very strong universal subconscious tendency that we have, and I'm referring to that as your dependent reactions. Do you think of yourself as somebody that has a lot of dependency issues? Dependency tends to be a characteristic that's of a subconscious nature. Now, sometimes we're aware of it, but many times it just happens so easily that we're not even particularly noticing what's going on. Men in particular, by the way, have a hard time saying, yeah, I've got these dependent reactions. Let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Now, literally from the first day of life, you have a tendency to go into your dependency mode. Dependency simply means that you allow your mood or your inner sense of direction to be determined by outer circumstances. So as a little bitty infant, you're already vigilant. You're wondering, what's going on with these people over there? Are they friend or foe? Are they with me or not? And hopefully you have a team of people led by mother and father and then other key people who will say, yeah, go ahead and you can look to me, you can depend on me, and I'm going to be here, I'm going to be available. And so we begin this subconscious pattern of thinking, all right, there are some people out there that I can respond to who are trustworthy, who understand me, they're affirming, and so this is going to be good. But as that little small child and then toddler and then going into grade school years, you begin realizing, and this is on a subconscious level, some people out there really aren't all that reliable. And so you learn how to be guarded or careful or defensive around some people. Sometimes, let's say if you have an adult that becomes really angry at you, you have a fearful reaction. Or if you have a friend who's very selfish, you wind up being selfish too, and you let them more or less set your pace. That's part of what the subconscious mind does. As you've been taking notes with respect to the world around you, you begin to have patterns that are established on the inside of you. Now, at some point in your life, I'm hoping you'll realize, hey, this subconscious pattern of dependent reactions, it's not working real well. Now, in your adult life, for example, how many times do you find yourself behaving based on someone else's input to you, and then later on you think, that's not really what I wanted to be? For example, let's suppose that you have a family member who's highly argumentative, and you find yourself yelling, or you find yourself coming up with all sorts of attitudes that are not very becoming of you. That's your subconscious mind at work. whether you're actually consciously aware of it, you're more or less saying, I was counting on you to be what I need to be in this moment so that I could move on in a good sort of way. And you are allowing yourself to be carried away by that other person, just like that little bitty infant or that little toddler was way back when, who was looking to his or her little people in front of them. And so one of the things that is part of a healthy manner of life is we learn how to override some of our subconscious tendencies that may not necessarily guide us well in our current way of living. And there's a term that I refer to, I call it emotional competence. Sometimes you need to have a realization that says, the world out there truly is inconsistent. Sometimes it's for me, sometimes it's against me, sometimes I can't read it very well at all. And so I'd better have my own conscious way of living in such a way that I don't let my subconscious world just kind of run away with me, and before you know it, I'm being somebody that I don't want. Now see, there are key indicators that I think you can watch for that tell us if your subconscious mind is running away from you. For example, how many times do you mirror the poor behaviors or attitudes or emotions of someone else? As I mentioned just a minute ago, somebody else may be angry and you get angry. Somebody else is argumentative, so you just jump in there and get argumentative too. Somebody else is critical, so you wind up just thinking counter-critical thoughts. Or somebody's controlling, you become controlling. You see what I'm saying? And you want to have an awareness of that. Or other awarenesses that you'll need to become aware of is sometimes you act out behaviors that in the long run, it's like, that wasn't really me. Of course, it actually is you, but it's a me that I don't want to be. And so again, it's like, so what does that tell me? Subconsciously, I guess some patterns just began to run away with me. Consciously, I wasn't planning very well. And then another indicator that says that you're in your dependent reactor mode is you wind up speaking with persuasion towards other people. The persuasive, insistent, forceful communicator is basically saying, if I can get you to act right, then finally I can be okay. Consciously, is that really what you believe? That you're doomed unless the people in front of you act well? And so as you begin realizing, sometimes my subconscious presumptions take me in a wrong direction, then I'm hoping that consciously you can go in a much more intentional kind of direction. And there are several kind of things that we can look at that says that you're heading in the right direction there. First, let's just acknowledge and say, I cannot afford to allow my mood, my direction in life, my behaviors, my attitudes to be determined by all these other imperfect people out there who probably haven't thought about their directions very well. When you think about it, that's kind of a formula for disaster, isn't it? Then, of course, that leads to another very strong realization that you have, and that is others may be very inconsistent in their patterns of behavior, but that doesn't mean that I have to be inconsistent right along with them. They may not have taken care of their beliefs or their patterns, but you see, I can, because consciously I've got some other ideas, which then leads to another huge thought, and that is I'm hoping that consciously, rather than saying, well, I'm just going to be a dependent reactor, you'll ask instead, who do I want to be? What traits? What personality characteristics do I want to have most predominant? When somebody's argumentative, for example, how do I want to respond to that? Do I want to be argumentative too? Can I have assertiveness? Can I have cleanness? Can I have steadiness? Consciously, it allows you to choose. Subconsciously, you just go on raw impulse. And so as you think about this implies a whole lot of work on your part in many, many parts of life, whether it's your use of alcohol, whether it's your management of schedule, whether it's the priorities that you set up in your life regarding career, or just the day's activities that you want to lean into. You have all sorts of things that can be determined by external influences, or you can consciously say, this is how I want to take charge of my life. So do you want to subconsciously let your world run away with you? Or do you want to consciously say, I've got a good idea of who I am, and I'm going to lean into that? Now, one of the things I'd like for you to do is go beneath the video and give me some comments about where you sometimes get into that dependent reactor mode. What are some of your vulnerable moments? And then I want you to also see if you can put down what would be your cleaner alternatives. And I want us to see if we can have an encouragement here of each other so that we can learn to move forward in a real healthy way. That's what our community here can be all about. Now, I hope that you find videos such as this to be very helpful. I enjoy being a part of your growth journey and know that I take my role in this seriously. Beneath the video, I invite you to hit that subscribe button so that you'll be aware when more videos come along, and you'll notice beneath the video I have many resources and books and online workshops and things of that nature there that you might avail yourself to. Just know that we're all in this together, and let's see if we can pool our thoughts and ideas together and encourage one another towards healthiness and goodness.